3 million. That's how many copies Mount and Blade Bannerlord has sold in its early access release since 2020. Somehow still running up nearly 25,000 daily concurrent players. It's never been at such a healthy place, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Yet recently, the game has moved into a new vibrant time with this content, and more than ever, a bigger combat with specifically the modding scene. All of this looks like Bannerlord is heading into a new era. Much like the next guy, when I see an update, I'm ultra hyped, except when it's 13 gigabytes. Now I have to wait 34 years to actually play it. 1.1 that released last month brought in a huge content patch, enough to make your dial-up sweat. So let's get straight into that part. First of all, with the new armors. The game has now been enriched with new Empire plate vest armor and new Crusade heavy armor, giving you more options for your character. There are also some new custom battle scenes, with 3 new being added in, including Sanala, Ataconia Castle, and Mekalova Castle. Some cool little additions that you might know is heading into the arena, characters have now had a visual overhaul. The spectators have new animations and some pretty nice additions, kind of immersing you within those arenas themselves. When it comes to sorting out your parties though, this update brings a significant improvement to troop management, allowing you to sort both rosters by troop type, name, count, and tier. The party screen also features a troop type rundown, so you can easily see the composition of your army at a glance, allowing you to sort through and prepare the best roster for each battle. Heading into the overall map, you'll now need to meet heroes to unlock some of their critical information, including skills, traits, family, and own settlement. This is called a fog of war system. Along with some new tutorials and some perk overhauls, battles and sieges have been changed. This patch brings numerous changes to sieges, including the new Sally Out Ambush mission, where, well, you can sally out against the enemy. There are also banner effects and custom battle and improvements to AI behavior and reinforcement troops. Oh, and if you've had enough of the game, there's a new settlement called the Retreat, where players can just approach this lad called the Hermit, and you can just retire from your current campaign. Or you can move on with one of your heirs, because the only way to become an heir or whoever in the game before was to die, so I guess this is now a mechanic and a way of changing it whenever you really want. But we know about patches. There are plenty of channels that are covering enough of these in finer detail. But it goes further. Modding in Bannerlord has never been as strong as perhaps it is now, and some of the biggest changes in that come with multiplayer mods. Let's start with Full Invasion 3. I made a full rundown video on my first impressions of the mod way back. It was one of my most awaited pieces of media coming from Warband. Full Invasion 2 within Warband was this co-op siege defense against hordes and hordes of AI enemies in different time eras. And then the porting to Bannerlord has been somewhat of a success. I will get onto why just somewhat in a little bit. You gain coins and experience to level up your character, you get better weaponry and become stronger and stronger. Yet the enemies do the same, not only in number but in harder and harder boss waves. Yet it definitely has its issues. It's been somewhat successful as mentioned, yet it's still far off the legendary mod that Full Invasion 2 was. Currently it's just with vanilla, which is understandable because Bannerlord's modding still isn't quite at that level, and making different time eras like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, well, that's going to come a lot later. But other than that, it's still really buggy. The game or the mod itself is very badly optimized. Whether that's down to Bannerlord itself being badly optimized, who knows? But the game clearly can't handle the mass spawning of enemies. I mean, there's a reason in the single player that the enemies spawn in waves and set numbers. The mod kind of negates all that, and it means that, well, it tends to not handle it all too well. But let's head into the 19th century with an age of powder and musket. Another big multiplayer mod on the scene is Sword and Musket. It is doing some really decent things, bringing in full Napoleonic warfare from the early 1800s, playing as France or the United Kingdom. Of course, they have plans of adding in other factions in the future, and so far we only really have infantry and some artillery stuff, but we will be getting cavalry very soon. I've played a few line battles, and unfortunately that's all you can do at this point in time, just private events. So unless you've joined a regiment, it's going to be pretty hard to get your hands on this mod. But it is still making some big moves for growing that multiplayer community. But who could forget Persistent Empires? Perhaps at the moment my most favoritist of Bannerlord mods, and maybe even the most advanced of them all. Being able to transform the game into this open multiplayer world blows my mind to this day. I mean, it did back in Warband with Persistent World, but bringing it into Bannerlord, well, the scale has just gone tenfold. The map is so much bigger than Warband's ever was. Every single castle looks distances apart that seem like an absolute hike to get to, and I love it. Walking from one side of the map, well, if you can do that, because you'll probably get halted and killed along the way, but it is an absolute challenge. Whether you want to play as a serf, chopping down trees, being a lumberjack, mining in the mines, or farming, baking your wheat into bread, or smithing and crafting weapons or armor, selling it to castles or even other factions who will use it in their armory to buy armor to go to war. Different ranks from archers, militias, cavalry, sergeants, even up to lords who can give people the keys to the castle if they so wish, and bringing in systems, so on and so forth. The game has had so many clans flood to it for this reason, all fighting different wars at different times in the day. This 24/7 persistent world. Something, and perhaps one of the only mods that was ported from Warband that I think has had real success from the start. Well, apart from one thing. And that one thing, unfortunately, is something that I don't think the mod can fix. And that's the community. Because it's Persistent World, or Persistent Empires in this case, it's still just as toxic as ever. But hey, what can you do? The mod itself has implemented local chat, so you can talk to people that are just in your surrounding area, along with voice over IP as well, which can, well, mean for some interesting confrontations. Class ranking with banks that you can store money in, and a full RPG system. There's a real-time economy, and, well, there's complete custom armor and custom weapon overhauls that look absolutely fantastic. Persistent World did this back in Warband. It added stuff from native, but it made it look just that bit better, making plate armor look gorgeous with different intricate designs, and they've brought that back for Persistent Empires. Boy, it is a lot of fun. Multiplayer isn't just the only part of Bannerlord that is getting its overhauls though. Single player is still having mods coming out every single week. Some fantastic upcoming ones are Kingdoms of Ardor, the Lord of the Rings overhaul that is still very much in early phases, and they're not really bringing out too much about the mod itself. Del Arte de la Guerra, which is a beautiful War of the Roses sort of era. The armor and the maps on that have been blowing me away. I mean, the city sieges, there's a reason that I use this mod as a lot of the thumbnails, because I've never seen Bannerlord look this good. And of course, you've got In the Name of Jerusalem, one of the more recent mods that is going into its early alpha phases, that is basically taking you into the Crusades, something that I will be checking out in full very, very soon. But even Tailwoods have been making moves, bringing out much more support for modding, bringing out way better implementation of map making that we've seen being implemented in stuff like Del Arte de la Guerra, or even multiplayer sides in Persistent Empire, and it just enhances the game to no end. I have had my hand in trying out some of the map making, but I'm pretty useless at it. But hey, maybe one day I'll get better, or at least competent. Oh, and if you got a second, please subscribe.